Well, a lot of people were certainly excited that Nintendo went in a more mature direction with The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. There were some people who enjoyed the Wind Waker on the GameCube who probably would have liked a more direct sequel to that game with its sort of cute, cartoony art style. Well, here's your sequel in The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass for the Nintendo DS. The game literally picks up where Wind Waker left off, with Link traveling around with Tetra and her band of pirates, apparently on the hunt for a ghost ship of some sort that has some sort of crazy treasure. They find it, Tetra jumps aboard, gets kidnapped, now he's got to go rescue the princess again. Despite the fact that this is basically the same Zelda premise that you've seen in every other Zelda game, the storytelling here is actually very good. The plot goes in a few interesting directions, there are some neat characters that you encounter and some very funny ones at that, and there's a lot of really good dialogue in the game that's very amusing. The thing that makes Phantom Hourglass so unique in the Zelda universe is the fact that it is a DS game and all the controls are mapped directly to the touchscreen. There's really no button commands whatsoever. All the D-pad does is just sort of cycle menus and things like that. You move Link around just by sort of dragging the stylus along the screen in the direction you want him to go. You tap on enemies or swipe with the stylus to attack, and then you press stuff, hold stuff, drag stuff, whatever you need to do for the various puzzles. It sounds really gimmicky and is very easily the kind of control scheme that could totally just suck all the fun out of the game if it wasn't done well, but it's actually done really well, and all the puzzles are so uniquely catered to this design that the game is a lot of fun to play with this scheme. One thing about Phantom Hourglass is that it's not quite as challenging as some of the other Zelda games in the series. A lot of the dungeon designs are not quite as heavy on the backtracking or just really elaborate running from one end to the other kind of stuff that you would see in some of the console Zelda games. The level designs are actually really smart. There's some very tricky puzzles in the later designs, though one dungeon in particular is the one thing about the game that isn't necessarily 100% great, and that is this one temple, the Temple of the Ocean King, that you have to go back to again and again and again in the game to get the various sea charts you need to get around the world. The problem with it is that you have to go through the same levels you just beat again to get to the next set of levels to get the next sea chart over and over again. About halfway through the game, you get a save point where you can skip the first half of the levels in the thing before you jump onto the next section. But the fact that you have to kind of repeat the same levels over and over again is kind of tedious. And also, if you walk in the wrong levels of the area, it'll suck the life out of you. So that's kind of a problem. You do get an item called the Phantom Hourglass, which protects you from the life-sucking properties of this temple, so long as that there is sand at the top. One thing that does also make getting through the Temple of the Ocean King a little bit easier on subsequent playthroughs, as well as just the other temples in the game, are the various items you collect. And the way those items are actually implemented with the touchscreen controls is really interesting. For instance, with the boomerang, you can actually plot the path of the boomerang just by drawing a little path, and it'll go exactly where you tell it to go. Figuring out all the different little mechanics you can use with the items is probably one of the best parts of the entire game. The other really awesome thing about Phantom Hourglass is the fact that you can draw on maps. And while that sounds like a really small addition at first, once you actually start using it, you realize it's actually kind of mind-blowing. Same thing goes for sea charts. You can mark treasure, hint at uncharted islands that are on the map, various things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to find unless you were just sailing around like a nut job, trying to find every little nook and cranny of the world. Sailing in the Wind Waker was one of those things that you either loved or you hated. Most people probably hated it. In the Phantom Hourglass, it's a much easier endeavor. You simply just bring up your sea chart and draw a path that you want the boat to take, and it will just simply go there. There's not much to it beyond that, but the world isn't so huge that it makes waiting around for you to get from one place to another that much of a pain, and there's always plenty of stuff to shoot anyway. The main quest will probably take an average player about 14 to 15 hours to complete, though there are plenty of little side quests and ventures and treasures and uncharted islands to find. That could take anywhere up to 20 hours to find all of it. There's also a decent little battle mode that can be played for up to 2 players, either in regular Wi-Fi or online. It's nothing special, but it's a neat little addition to the game. What makes Phantom Hourglass so impressive as a DS game isn't necessarily the fact that, it's a Zelda game, because as far as being a Zelda game is concerned, it's really, really good, but it's not the most impressive one you'll ever play. What makes it so impressive is just the technology behind it, the fact that the control scheme works so well, the fact that the graphics are just as impressive as they are, and that so much of the game is just so beautifully crafted around this control scheme is a really impressive thing to behold. Phantom Hourglass is definitely a game that any Zelda fan will appreciate, but really anyone with a DS should check it out because it's easily one of the best uses of the technology out there.